They told us our gold was worthless unless sold in Paris. They told us our passports were just paper without European stamps. They told us we needed permission, even to dream. But today something broke. In the heart of West Africa, a man stepped forward. Not with tanks, not with speeches, but with a piece of paper, a currency. And not just any currency. Afro Money, born in Burkina Faso, backed by gold, cobalt, and oil, completely outside Western control. No one predicted it. No one approved it. And no one, especially in Washington or Paris, is smiling. Because this isn't just a new bill. It's a declaration, a message from Captain Ibrahim Traoré. You cannot enslave a people who control their own wallet. So stay with us, because this is not just a story. It is the victory our ancestors whispered about through chains and fire. Subscribe and stand with us. For an Africa that bows to no one. They said we won independence. They sang our anthems, raised our flags. But behind every symbol they handed us, they kept one key for themselves: the money. In West and Central Africa, that key has a name: the CFA Franc. Created in 1945, 2 decades before most African nations even tasted independence, the CFA was never meant to serve African people. It was designed to control them, economically, silently, without firing a single bullet. Even today, 14 African nations still use it, and every time they want to print money, they must ask permission. From France, let that sink in. Your nation is free, but your central bank is in Paris. Your gold is in French vaults. Your reserves are locked, held interest-free by the very nation that once colonized you. This isn't economics. This is financial occupation, dressed in diplomacy. In 2024 alone, over 50% of West Africa's foreign reserves were stored in French banks. That's billions, not reinvested in African roads, hospitals, or schools, but collecting dust in European vaults, feeding an old empire. And when crises hit, when inflation soars or global markets crash, these nations cannot act. They cannot print more. They cannot stimulate growth. They must wait for approval. What kind of independence is that? As Thomas Sankara once warned, he who feeds you controls you. He who prints your money owns your soul. They killed Sankara, but the chain he tried to break still rattles. And here's the trick they never told you. The CFA franc isn't even backed by African resources. It's pegged to the euro, a currency born from a union that doesn't include us, doesn't speak for us, and never will. So when the euro falls, so does the CFA. When European banks shift interest rates, African livelihoods hang in the balance. It's not your currency. It's theirs, with your face printed on it. And what's worse, many of our own leaders defend it. Because dependency brings comfort. Because those who benefit from the old game have no reason to change the rules. But for the people, for the farmers in Mali, the traders in Chad, the students in Senegal, the CFA is a curse. It kills innovation, discourages local production, rewards exports to Europe while punishing trade within Africa. A continent that feeds the world cannot feed itself, because it cannot spend freely. Let's be clear, the CFA is not just currency. It is control. And as long as it exists, true freedom remains a myth. But change is coming, and his name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. It didn't begin with a loan. It didn't wait for approval from Brussels, Washington, or the IMF. It began with a decision, a refusal. In 2025, Captain Ibrahim Traoré walked into a press conference in Ouagadougou. He didn't bring notes. He brought a message. A nation cannot call itself free if its money answers to strangers. And just like that, the world changed. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation once dismissed as poor and dependent, had launched Afro Money, a new African currency, not backed by foreign debt or colonial reserves, but by African strength. Gold from Burkina Faso, cobalt from Congo, oil from Nigeria, no euro, no dollar, no foreign finger on the scale. For decades, we were told Africa couldn't build its own money, that our economies were too fragile, that we needed technical assistance, that we had no choice. Captain Traoré said otherwise. Afro Money isn't just paper. It's protected by a blockchain backbone, stored across sovereign African servers. That means No central server for foreign hackers to shut down. No Western clearinghouse to intercept payments. Every transaction, verified, decentralized, and African-owned. And there's more. The data centers powering Afro Money? They run on renewable African energy, not imported fuel. The first sectors using Afro Money? Strategic exports no one can boycott. Gold, cobalt, oil, uranium. If the West tries to cut us out, they cut themselves off first. Let that sink in. This isn't rebellion. It's strategy. Calculated, layered, relentless. But Afro Money didn't rise alone. Behind it stands a growing alliance. Mali, Niger, Guinea, Chad, nations shedding foreign scripts and writing their own. Together, they form a defensive economic bloc, protecting each other as they transition away from dependency. And at the center of it all, not a billionaire, not a banker, but a soldier. Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The world expected speeches. He delivered software. They expected slogans. He minted a currency. Now, headlines read, Captain Ibrahim latest news. Burkina Faso launches revolutionary currency. But this isn't just news. It's a warning. A warning to every empire that built its wealth on African silence. We are no longer asking. We are building. We are moving. And this time, the currency carries our face and our fire. They say money talks. But for centuries in Africa, money only whispered in foreign tongues. Until now. Hold a note of Afro Money, and you are not just holding currency. You are holding a manifesto. No presidents, no castles, no blank bridges to nowhere. Instead, warriors, revolutionaries, ancestors, truth. On one note, you see Thomas Sankara. His face is unsmiling. His stare? Steel. He does not beg history to forgive him. He dares it to remember. Another note bears Patrice Lumumba, the fire of Congo. You see in his eyes what colonizers feared. Intellect without apology. Queen Nzinga. She doesn't sit to the side. She commands the center, spear in hand, chin raised. A woman who held off the Portuguese Empire for 4 decades. Now watches over our wealth. And then there's Mandela. Not the elder statesman in a suit, but the young insurgent. Eyes fierce, fists clenched, still underground. Still fighting. These aren't design choices. They're declarations. Because for far too long, African currency taught us who to forget. Banknotes told us to admire colonial governors. Coins bore the faces of European monarchs. We spent our days exchanging portraits of our oppressors and never blinked. Afro Money ends that era. The typography? Bold. The words Afro Money dominate the center. Not tucked away, not ashamed. And look closer. Some notes are printed with inscriptions not in French or English, but in Swahili, Yoruba, Zulu, Wolof. Our mother tongues, not theirs. That too is a revolution. Even the coins tell stories. One features a map of Africa without colonial borders. Another shows a baobab tree woven with digital circuits, a tribute to Africa's technological sovereignty. On the edges of every coin, you'll find something small but mighty. A line of poetry, a buried proverb, a speech fragment, once banned, now engraved. Freedom is never given. It is taken. We are the granddaughters of the witches you couldn't burn. The soil remembers what the empires forgot. This is money as education. Every transaction becomes a lesson. Every market exchange, a whisper of resistance. And it works both ways. Because now African leaders are being forced to choose. You can't praise Sankara and sign arms deals with the powers that murdered him. You can't celebrate Lumumba on Monday and attend an IMF gala on Tuesday. You can't pose with Afro Money and sell your people's minerals for euros. Afro Money isn't just a currency. It's a mirror. It shows us who we are and who dares to lie about it. That's why the panic is real. Not just in banks, but in boardrooms. Not just in embassies, but in the hearts of the old guard. Because belief is contagious. And once people believe in money that looks like them, sounds like them, fights for them, they won't go back. So, now we ask you, if you believe this is what Africa needed all along, say Amen in the comments below. Every time Africa has tried to break free, someone, somewhere, has pulled a plug. Ask Ghana in the 70s. Ask Libya in the 2000s. Ask any African nation that dared to dream economically. They didn't lose because of bad math. They lost because they were attacked. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré knows it. That's why Afro Money was not built as a symbol. It was built as a fortress. From day one, his team asked not, how do we print it? But how do we protect it when the first cyber attack hits? Because the attacks will come. Currency manipulation, digital theft, banking blacklists, frozen reserves, media disinformation. The playbook is old, but Afro Money is new, and it's tearing pages out of that book before they can be used. The backbone, blockchain. Afro Money's core is blockchain technology, stored across multiple African nations. Not one server, not one capital. You cannot bomb it. You cannot freeze it. You cannot bribe your way into it. Every transaction, decentralized, verified, and immune to Western clearinghouses. No need for SWIFT. No route through Wall Street. No data flowing through France. And the servers? Housed in African-controlled data centers, powered by solar, hydro, wind, not imported fuel. Because control is not just digital, it's energetic. The shield, Africa's resources. But Traoré went further. Afro Money isn't rolled out across luxury malls. It starts with Africa's pressure points. Gold from Burkina Faso. They're lifelines. If Europe or America tries to punish Afro Money, they risk cutting off the very minerals that power their phones, cars, weapons, and grids. That's not rebellion. That's leverage. The escape route. Independent payment network. And if they try to block us through global systems like SWIFT, Afro Money is already moving through its own rails. A parallel payment network, modeled after Russia's SPFS and China's CIPS. So trade doesn't stop. It reroutes to China, Turkey, Russia, and between African allies. This is why Burkina Faso latest news isn't just trending. It's shaking markets. Because for the first time, they don't own the switch. The foundation, multi-resource reserve. Most currencies die because they're pegged to a single thing. Gold drops, the currency collapses. Not Afro Money. It's anchored to a basket. Gold. It's an insurance policy written in minerals, not theory. The firewall, tiered rollout. And the most dangerous threat? Sabotage from within. Traders in suits. Ministers in love with the IMF. Bankers trained in Brussels, not Bamako. So Traoré didn't open the gates to everyone. Afro Money starts with the loyal. Mali, Niger, Guinea, Chad. Each one tested. Each one ready to defend, not just adopt. It's not idealism. It's containment strategy. Keep the virus of betrayal outside the lab. And now the West is watching. And they're afraid. Because they're not just facing a new currency. They're facing a new immune system. Built by Africa. For Africa. This is not just a rebellion. It's resilience. By design. A currency is only as strong as the ground it walks on. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré understands that Afro Money cannot succeed in a fractured Africa. Because what good is sovereign money if your truck of grain takes 10 days to cross a border? If your workers need visas to walk across ancestral lands? If your richest resources must first pass through Paris before reaching your neighbor? So Traoré's plan does not end with a coin. It begins with a continent. At the heart of that vision lies a triangle. 3 tools. 1 mission. African unity. Transport corridors, connecting the soil. High-speed rail from Dakar to Nairobi. Energy grids linking the Sahel to southern Africa. Cargo highways that don't zigzag through colonial checkpoints. These are not dreams. They are blueprints already on the table. Backed by African engineers. Funded by intra-African partnerships. Because you cannot build a unified economy if goods take longer to reach Ghana from Burkina Faso than from Belgium. 2. The African passport. Movement without permission. In 1884, at the Berlin Conference, they drew lines across our lands and called them borders. Lines that cut tribes, families, and futures in half. Today, we carry that pain in our pockets, with visas, restrictions, suspicion. But soon, that ends. The African Continental Passport is coming. With it, any African can live, work, and travel anywhere on the continent without permission. No more colonial papers. No more waiting rooms in embassies. Just African freedom for African people. 3. Afro Money, The financial glue. 40 national currencies. Dozens of exchange rates. Millions lost every day in conversion fees. Most of them flowing to banks in London or Paris. Afro Money ends that. No more USD in between. No more euro as middleman. Just one currency. One transaction. From Nairobi to Lagos. From Dakar to Kinshasa. Trade becomes fast. Profits stay home. Power stops leaking. Because currency isn't just about value. It's about identity. And that identity is African. Together, these three create something Africa has never had before. A truly borderless economy. A market of 1.4 billion people. A continent that trades with itself before trading with the world. A united Africa doesn't just benefit the continent. It changes global power forever. No more negotiating as fragments. No more signing deals from a position of need. One Africa, one voice, one wallet. And that wallet now has a name. Afro Money. No empire gives up quietly. And no revolution walks forward without making enemies. Afro Money is not just a new currency. It's a new order. And that's why it has old enemies. Let's begin with the obvious. 1. France, the first to bleed. For decades, Paris controlled African wealth without ever setting foot on the soil. African reserves sat quietly in the French treasury. Interest was collected. Policies were dictated, all under the polite name of cooperation. But now, Afro Money threatens to break the CFA Franc completely. And with it, France's invisible empire collapses. No more free storage of African billions. No more gatekeeping our credit ratings. No more whispering into our budgets from across the Mediterranean. That's not just economic loss. It's humiliation. 2. The IMF and World Bank, losing the leash. These institutions don't lend without leverage. They give loans and take policies. They help, and then rewrite your laws. But Afro Money removes the hook. If African nations no longer need dollars or euros, they no longer need to accept the terms that come with them. No more selling public assets. No more cutting health and education to balance a spreadsheet in Washington. No more being told, you're not ready. Now we decide what ready looks like. 3. Western corporations, losing the cheat code. Currency instability has always been their friend. When African money crashes, they buy cheap and sell high. When resources are undervalued, they scoop up our gold, our oil, our cobalt, for pennies. A resource-backed, stable Afro Money ruins that game. They'll have to pay fair prices, on African terms, to African companies. No more special deals. No more hiding behind currency tricks. Just economic justice. 4. The real danger. Africa's own traders. But the most dangerous enemies? They speak our language. They wear our flags. They sit in our parliaments. There are African ministers, central bankers, advisors, whose careers depend on foreign loyalty, who rise by signing away sovereignty, who smile while selling us out. Afro Money is a threat to their very existence. Because once Africa stops needing financial experts trained in Europe, once we stop sending budget drafts to Paris before passing them at home, they lose relevance. Some will sabotage quietly, others will scream loudly, but all will be afraid, because Afro Money takes their power away. And history speaks clearly. Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Muammar Gaddafi, all tried to unshackle Africa from economic chains. None lived to finish the mission. They weren't overthrown because they failed. They were taken out because they succeeded too well. And the methods? Fake uprisings, accidental plane crashes, sudden scandals, currency crashes, engineered from afar, whisper campaigns, political puppets waiting for their cue. And today, cyber attacks, social media bots, foreign-funded opposition parties, weaponized inflation. The war has evolved, but the goal remains the same. Stop African freedom before it starts. But Traoré is no fool. He started small, with allies, with shields, Mali, Niger, Guinea, Chad. They don't just use Afro Money. They defend it because they know a revolution unprotected is a revolution unfinished. And now the question is not, will they try to stop Afro Money? They already are. The real question is, are we willing to protect it, no matter the cost? Because this time, the war for Africa is not in the fields. It's in our wallets. They told us we were free, but they still controlled the coin. They told us we were sovereign, but they still held the vault. They told us we had independence, but gave us no power to spend it. That era is over. Afro money is not just a currency. It is proof. Proof that Africa can build. Proof that we can lead. Proof that our ancestors did not dream in vain. When we look at those notes, Sankara, Lumumba, Queen Nzinga, Mandela, we don't just see history. We see unfinished business. And this time, we finish it. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has lit the flame. Burkina Faso has taken the first leap. Others are following. But belief alone will not protect this vision. It will take action. It will take vigilance. It will take all of us. From Ghana to Guyana, from Lagos to Louisiana, from Accra to Atlanta. Black voices united in one demand. Africa must never bow again. So if this story moved something in your chest, if you felt a spark, a memory, a calling, don't scroll past. Like, share, speak, subscribe, because they hid our history long enough. Let's speak our future out loud. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Afro money expand beyond the Sahel? Which African heroes deserve a place on the next note? What role should the diaspora play in protecting this movement? Because this isn't just Burkina Faso's fight. It's Africa's. And it belongs to every soul that carries African blood, pride, and purpose. This is the beginning of something bold, of something irreversible, of something ours. Say it with us in the comments. Africa knew. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next story. The kind they still don't want you to hear.